What is life really about? It's about experiences with the people that you love and care about most. So that's really the whole entire notion of this dream architect life.
When clients are really busy and they're dedicated and they're hard charging, a lot of times they give up everything to get the goal, hit the carrot. And so they missed out on a lot of experiences. And so, we help them by events that we have, make them experiences, or just even help them plan, amazing vacations that they might not have otherwise done.
A lot of entrepreneurs, high-end business owners, they can be great at making money. They can be not so great at keeping it.
I want to make sure they have the health to actually do those things because, that old adage, the person who has their health has 1,000 wishes and they can dream big. The person who doesn't has one wish. Okay, so I'm super excited to have my friends Brittany and Bryan, and you guys know these are some of the most credible people in the financial world. Not only do they make a big impact on people's wealth, but Bryan and Brittany are unique because they are also really concerned about people's health, their longevity, their legacy, and the experiences they have in life. And so I brought them on. I said, hey, I would love to talk about the dream architecture because the dream architecture is something that's transformed lots of lives of people who are not financial advisors, but it's also a community that Bryan and Brittany have built for financial advisors. But Bryan, let's kind of talk about your past a little bit because
Sure.
You built just like such a phenomenal infrastructure in the financial advisor world, and you're a hustler from day one. But maybe you could go back to your past and talk to us about how you got how you cut your teeth in the financial advising world.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, it's great to be here, Regan. Thanks for having us on. I always like to say I've been in the financial services industry for 45 years, and I started when I was 5, but I might be stretching that a little bit. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to have my mentor in college also be in the financial arena. So I kind of cut my teeth during my senior year of college, and he was actually a life insurance representative. So I cut my teeth in the life insurance industry. And then over the years, I just learned that I was more apt and enjoyed the financial planning, wealth management part more, and slowly but surely just gravitated towards that. And fortunately, a number of years ago, 1987, was able to create my own firm and have some amazing team members, of which Brittany is our president of the company, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, well, and you and Brittany just make such a phenomenal team. And back in the day when you were starting, you're door to door pretty much. How did you build? You have the greatest clients. Some of the coolest people I've met in our practice came from you and Brittany. But how did you make so many great relationships?
Well, it's just like anything. When you start a business, it takes a lot of time and effort. And so, fortunately, we had a lot of dedicated people working to accomplish the same objective. But it was, meeting a lot of people, doing the right thing for people, irregardless of whether it meant any business for you initially. Worked a lot of evenings and, had a lot of people I met over the years, but, it's been very, very well worth it and wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, love it. And Brittany, how long have you and Bryan been working together?
It'll be 16 years coming up here soon.
And so tell us about, where you started and how you got to where you are now as the president of the company.
Yeah. So I came in, I was actually fresh out of college and saw this job ad that I was like, man, there's something about that company. And I don't know what it is, but I felt like I had to work there. So I was in a totally different role, corporate environment, came into Sweet Financial, and I actually started in our client service department. So I got to work with clients. I got to meet a whole lot of all the great people that Bryan has mentioned here. And as time went on, I realized, you know what, I miss the leadership component. So long story short, got moved into more of an operations role. As time went on, what they realized is Bryan actually really needed a babysitter. So they moved me up into COO, which really meant just hang out with Bryan and keep him in line. And as time progressed, I became partner and now president. And I've been able to work really closely with Bryan and developing out, moving towards the future vision of the company and making sure the team is aligned behind it and that we're always operating from a place where we're trying to bring great resources to our clients, not only in the wealth planning component, but in people like you, in different services like you, where we can really create this holistic approach with them.
Man, yeah, because you guys are so dedicated to getting your clients access to things that are going to better their life. And I think a lot of financial advisors miss that. It's like, it's one thing to help protect someone's financial security, but wealth doesn't really do us any good if you're not using it to further your lifespan. I mean, it's just numbers on a computer. If you think about it, it's ridiculous. So Brittany, as far as the dream architecture, I mean, one of the big things you guys talk about is dreaming big. And so how do you get somebody to kind of move out of their current state of thinking about what's possible in life into like the bigger possibilities?
Yeah, I love this question. A lot of times it's actually really hard for people that aren't wired in that like futuristic mindset already. It can be tough because you're in the minutia of the day to day. You're thinking about, somebody that's maybe come off of, call it a business sale or a great long-term career. They're like, how do I spend more time with my grandkids? How do I get my more efficient in? How do I, get on the golf course more? And what they quickly realize is some of that stuff, maybe not the grandkid part, but some of that stuff can get a little monotonous or boring after a while. So our hope and our goal has been to really help expand people's way of thinking, saying, you know what, let's not talk about your hobbies and the things that are happening right now, but let's look at what's possible for your future. What are the things that you have said for years that you want to experience, that you want to do? And a lot of times all people need is somebody to stimulate that conversation and that thought, because on the day-to-day, their friends group, their family immediately, they're all stuck in the day-to-day too. So they need somebody to ask those expanding questions. And that's really where, we've identified opportunities for people to say, hey, life is pretty darn short and there's a heck of a lot out there for you. So we're the stimulus for the right questions.
Wow. I love that. And Bryan, in 45 years since you started, you basically were potty trained and then you started doing finances. So.
Still struggles with that. I don't know.
I was just going to say, thank you for saying I was over that, but.
Oh yeah. Brittany's still helping you, isn't she?
Exactly. Oh, yes. I'm glad she made that clear. Yes.
It's great. Brittany and I are both kind of help babysit Bryan. We keep him moving in the right direction.
And you're doing a great job. I want to compliment both of you.
Well, we appreciate you, Bryan. But if you look at what is the biggest, what would you say the biggest challenge your clients have in the 45 years of work when it comes to creating that bigger dream for their life or reaching the financial goals that they have? Yeah,
I think a great question. I think part of it is the accumulation of the wealth thing is actually relatively easy. You create a plan if you're disciplined enough to stick to it. The numbers are the numbers and they're pretty easy to create. And what we found is there was 4 other problems that clients continued to run into that we hadn't been able to solve, or they just kept coming up. And that's where we created, the Dream Architect Life and, wrote the book on dream architecture. And those 4 other areas are, lack of purpose. And as Brittany alluded to, maybe you were a high oriented CEO or a business owner, and then you retired and now you're maybe the garbage taker outer. And so you retired from something, but what are you retiring to? So your purpose or lack thereof is missing. Health and longevity, which is obviously this, your topic. People are not educated. And even myself, where in a lot of the masterminds and right groups, I've learned so much from you, Regan, and others about the right things to do. And you've been so helpful in just getting all of my readings to be what they should be. But most people are used to going to the doctor and they're told two things, here's your prescription, or what's the date we can line up for your surgery. And
Right.
as you're well aware, there's so much more, and a lot of that stuff's not even needed if you know the right people to see and the right questions to ask. And then the other two were legacy issues, which can deal with charitable interests while you're living. A lot of people want to be charitably inclined, but they're afraid of running out of money. And so they wait till after they pass away, and they never get a chance to see all the good they could have done and enjoyed it while they were living. And then the last one, when clients are really busy and they're dedicated and they're hard charging, a lot of times they give up everything to get the goal and hit the carrot. And so they missed out on a lot of experiences. And so, we help them by events that we have, make them experiences, or just even help them plan, amazing vacations that they might not have otherwise done. And so, we collaborate with people all over the country, including you, to bring these, very interesting ideas that help complement the wealth part.
Man. Well, and the people that you brought in, we've had so many fun things. We were in Dallas, Texas a couple of years ago, brought in a great group. We've done it in Utah. And this is something that we'll keep doing more and more of these. And so for those of you who are interested, we'll have some links into the show notes. If you'd like to attend one of the longevity retreats or one of the dream architecture events, then we definitely want to get you to as a part of that. So Brittany, in this, kind of the step-by-step approach of the dream architecture. And by the way, pick up the book. It's Build a Retirement Beyond What's Possible. And I think that's what you guys, Brittany is a big thinker, and Bryan, they're both very big thinkers. Brittany she's a better singer and dancer than Bryan.
Very much so.
But Bryan's got just the street smarts that he can't be topped. But Brittany, if you look at this step-by-step process, can you just kind of walk us through? Bryan touched on a few of the fundamentals, but what is dream architecture?
Yeah. So I'll kind of go back to where this was born, and there's really a few different layers here. So it was about, 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. Bryan's always had this idea about dreaming big. And, I think it stems from a certain aunt and uncle that he had. I had the great pleasure of meeting his Aunt Jean and actually interviewing her when she was 90 years old. Bryan and I created a journal. It's called Imagine, Act, Inspire. And the whole thought process is it's 365 days of there's a positive quote. And then there's some lines where you can record some of the great things that happened each day. 90 years old, this woman had filled her journal. Like, I wish I had it in my hands right now. She filled her journal, even in the margins. She was so positive. Wow. And, she would talk about too, I remember she took a painting class and she's like, well, I'm no good at it, but I figured I may as well just give it a try. And I'm like, heck yeah, at 90 years old, you better try. That's amazing. So Bryan's had this bred in him of, dreaming big, of possibility, of focusing on the positive and all these great things. So that's really where the Dream Architect as a concept was born. We worked closely with an outside partner and said, how do we actually make this part of the process at Sweet Financial? Yeah, we can do the investment management. Yeah, we can help create wealth plans, but there's something more to be able to give there. And we just couldn't quite put our fingers on what it was. So that's really where the 4-step process was born. That's where we bring people in. So they come in thinking they need tax saving strategies, thinking they need a great estate plan locked in, thinking they need to, have a nice place to keep all of their hard-earned money. But really what we found that they needed was a space to dream big. So we have them go through a visioning process. We then do a blueprint for them. We go into the build of their plan that is aligned with their goals and their dreams and their hopes for the future. And then we make sure that we're in maintenance mode, constantly revisiting these things and helping remind them. And sometimes people need a nudge to just remind them of what's important to them, what they've said is important. So that's kind of where the foundation of this lied. And then as time went on and we started having these conversations and really paying attention to what people needed, and the underlying, read between the lines of what they're saying versus what they're intending, that's where that 5-pillar approach that Bryan has touched on came into play. You got this foundation of wealth. You know that you're secure and you're sturdy, kind of like the foundation of a home, I would liken it. Now let's start building upon it. So we start layering in this health and longevity component. Your health and your wealth, as you know, Regan, totally related. I think they're interchangeable in some capacities, because without one or the other doesn't matter. Then you start layering in and you say, okay, well, these people that are coming off of big careers, big businesses, they're losing a certain portion of their identity to what's being left behind. So how can we help them redefine and reshape their purpose and find something that reignites that passion? Then from there, you layer in some of these legacy plays, making sure that people are doing things that are impactful right now today versus waiting until they're gone to have it matter. And putting in those experiences on top. What is life really about? It's about experiences with the people that you love and care about most. So that's really the whole entire notion of this dream architect life. And that's our biggest passion and our biggest mission, is helping people really live it and lean into it, but have their wealth protected at the same time. We talked about this before, a lot of entrepreneurs, high-end business owners, they can be great at making money. They can be not so great at keeping it. So that's our job. Delegate the worry to the advisors in the office. And then let's talk about the fun stuff, and let's help you focus on what matters.
Man. And this is where my 10-year framework, I look at health in 3 categories that are somewhat unique, but number one is your best lifestyle. And so you've got to, a lot of people don't even realize, what does that even mean? What is your best lifestyle? What do you love to do? The second thing is going to be your fun experiences. And so, I think this is where we blend in so well. And then the third is your energy generators. What are you doing to generate energy? Because your health is directly proportional to your energy. And I think, if you look at wealth, how would you define, what would be a good way of defining wealth, Bryan, if you had to give it a single sentence?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. That would be a quick way of phrasing it. I think everybody has a different thought process on what it means, but it's just really the ability to do whatever you would love to do with yourself and your family and loved ones, and not have to worry about the consequences.
Yeah, where the resources are there to do that. And that's why I love working with you and Brittany, because what we do is, I want to make sure they have the health to actually do those things, because, that old adage, the person who has their health has 1,000 wishes and they can dream big. The person who doesn't has 1 wish. And so many people that we work with, and I hope you're listening to this, Bryan and Brittany, this is a great way of getting things set up so you can remove stress and make my life easier. So I really, it's all about me, by the way.
Clearly.
Well, we're glad to help you out, Regan. Yeah.
Thank you. So this kind of holistic approach, and I love that you guys use that, but it's wealth, it's purpose, it's health, it's longevity, it's legacy and experiences. On the legacy side, Bryan, your aunt obviously left a huge impact on you. And so what kind of legacy advice would you have? I've got 3 kids, I've got, a great wife. What are some things that maybe someone like me who should be thinking of? Dude in his late 40s, kind of rednecky. What's some legacy thoughts that I might think about?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really, personal question, and everybody's going to answer that a little bit different. But, one of the things that we're just trying to get people to do is just really think about, if anything were possible for yourself or your family or people you care about, what would those things be? And when would you want to do them? And with whom would you want to do it with? And over your lifetime, if that's the things that you could accomplish, and, we can create the resources and we can create the funding, but, we need to hear from you as to what it is that would have the most impact for you. Now, some people, it's very, they want to help others and be very charitably inclined, and that can be in any number of different ways. But I don't know, Brittany, what would you add to that?
Yeah, the timing of this question is interesting, because I was just in a panel talking about, wealth management industry as a whole. And I think something interesting that applies to people today, especially, is when you're thinking about your legacy. I think that obviously there's the money component, there's the estate plan, but there's also the mindset. And one of the examples that was given was that if you think back, even over the last, let's just call it 20 years, our generation, and I think about you, the redneck 40 something, Regan, our generation of people, they've faced a lot of uncertainty. So, you go back to like 1987 and you had Black Monday where there was a big old dip. And then you had the dot-com bubble. And then you had the global financial crisis where you have '07 to '09, which Bryan probably gets a little bit itchy when we think about that time. Then you have the pandemic, the global pandemic. And what we've seen happen is people maybe lose sight or lose faith in some level or some essence of possibility. So I think for me in particular, when I think about legacy and I think about so many of our clients, I think it has more to do with making sure that your mindset is in the right space and stays away from that level of scarcity and moves into the level of abundance. Because after everything we've gone through, even if you're resilient, even if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I don't get affected by that stuff. Somewhere deep down, like our subconscious is affected. And we don't need to go into the whole science of that right now, but there's absolutely a level of effectiveness that's happened. So I think about legacy, like making sure for me that my kids understand that, abundance is key. That yes, there's times like I'm teaching them about money right now. My 10-year-old, I've got her a checking account and she's learning about budgeting and all those great things. But I'm also making sure to instill that creation is still possible and there's no limitation. So that's really, I think about the legacy play. Yeah, we could go into the technicalities of estate plan and, changing the trajectory of where you came from to where you want your kids to go in multiple generations and all of that. But man, think about mindset and what that can do and having us as adults control that so that our kids can see those examples of abundance as we move forward.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's interesting, Brittany, because our tagline is, the dream architecture is the intersection of mindset and money, so I think what you just said, described that very well.
Yeah. And I love the concept. You mentioned this, Bryan, and then you as well, Brittany, but the charitable donations, a lot of people go to the grave and then here comes the check to go and, handle all these things. But I was talking to one of my friends, and he is building schools in it's Brazil, and him. It's Ted in our group in Free Zone.
Oh yes, yep.
And it's so cool just hearing the amount of like appreciation and joy he has for that. And he just loves it. You can see it just lights him up. And imagine if he didn't have, he's got the resources obviously to do it now, but imagine if he would have just said, "Oh, I just need to tighten up and, I better make this nest egg as big as possible." I mean, I think money, you can do so much good with it in the world, but it's that intersection between the mindset and your finances is the biggest thing because, we can be a slave to money, even if you have all the money that you'd never spend in your life, or it can be a real catapult to doing some phenomenal things. So one of the big things that you two do, and you do it really well, is I had the chance to be at the EWAS event. And it's really great. I just had Dr. Rosen on the podcast this week. And so we had a great conversation, and I'll send it to you guys once it's published, but I got a chance to meet him there, and we cleared things up. But I was so impressed at just the energy in the audience and what you're doing for financial advisors. So how does the dream architecture fit with other financial advisors or financial firms who, they want to bring some of the philosophies into their practice?
Yeah, I can start, Bryan, and feel free to kind of add in. I think there's a word that keeps coming to mind, and it's really community, right? Mm-hmm. So the advisors that we tend to attract, whether it's into the Elite Wealth Advisor Symposium that we host annually, or any of the different programs that we've run for advisors over the years, is it's a mindset share. So typically the advisors that are coming into this are looking at how can I deliver above and beyond what is the basic definition of wealth management today. And, we tend to attract a lot of visionary advisors, people who understand that the future of the industry is going to be pretty different. I liken it to right now, if you're talking to anybody who deals with, high net worth or ultra high net worth relationships, there's a lot of conversation around the family office, around this concept of having, one central person or advisor, and then you kind of handle everything and all the different relationships, centers of influence, et cetera, for the client. Our belief is that it's going to go and demand even more than that. We believe that the future of the industry is truly about access. And so that's really the advisors that are coming in are going, we want to create those access points too. We want to have great relationships with people like Regan, with people that can help on the legacy play, on the purpose. And so our job is we're vetting people across the globe to say, who's the best of the best? Who's the best of the best in our opinion, of course, but in the health and longevity space, in the purpose space, in legacy, in creating masterful experiences, because experiences have many, many different definitions. But it's really those advisors that are coming in, and then we can help curate great experiences. I mean, for example, Regan, I'll just use you as the example here, is, we can help cultivate these really cool events where you go on site with Regan and team, and there's education and there's all kinds of kind of different wows and surprise and delights that are along the way to really make it a wonderful experience. So people can bring their best clients and trust that they're bringing them into a good space, that you're not going to get, sleazy sales and all that stuff that you might worry about that could damage a relationship. Instead, it's ultimately enhanced. So that's really the focus that we're looking at, is building that community of advisors that want to impact their clients.
Yeah. And in the last couple of years, a lot of the framework of what we're sharing is really based on the 5 pillars of the Dream Architect life, and sharing what we have learned and the resources that we've cultivated with other advisors that kind of feel the same way and want to deliver more to their clients.
Yeah, and so it's almost like you guys have transformed where most people kind of stick within their lanes, like family office is, one person kind of being the central hub, where it's like, man, well, maybe we should bring in the health aspect, and maybe there's something on the experiential aspect. And, so I would imagine this is travel or certain purchases, people want a cabin or whatever it may be. And so having access is so critical, because, all of us, we're in different masterminds together, like Strategic Coach, Genius Network. And the coolest thing of being in those rooms is you suddenly see that there's a whole world out there that I didn't even think was possible. And that's what you guys are doing in the Dream Architecture, is bringing in all the resources that you guys are continually finding the best resources, and then sharing that with your clients, and the advisors have the chance to do that. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about the framework of the events at EastWest, if you guys are okay with that, so that your clients, any financial advisors, if they're like, what are these longevity retreats are about? And what is there really a peptide and stem cell party at these? Maybe we could just dispel some of the myths that are out there around it. So, if people want to engage, they can reach out to you, and we'll walk them through every step of it. But
I think that would be amazing to share that. Yeah.
Well, let's jump in. So one of the things that we do in our collaborations is we want to run blood labs. And Bryan, if you don't mind me sharing on your Mayo Clinic, you've done the executive, the executive program with them for years. And how much different was the blood labs that my team and I ran for you versus what the Mayo Clinic ran for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of flabbergasted, and I reached out to him after your experience. But yeah, I probably done the Mayo Executive Physical for 15 or 20 years. And then, I went through your platform and your program, and yours was like maybe 3x as comprehensive. And it was more comprehensive in the number of things that you were checking on. But to me, even the bigger thing was the Mayo's was, how do you get to average? And yours is, how do I get to ideal? Now, There's a lot of difference between ideal and average. And so I just found that fascinating. And then the other thing that you do is you have a platform or a process to help you get there and show progress. And, it's good to know that you need some help, but if no one shows you, how do I get better? And then whatever I'm doing, is it working? I wasn't really getting that at the Mayo, and all of a sudden, you pop into my life, and all of a sudden, I'm reached some targets and some goals that I've had issues with forever, and now I've got the best marker readings and the things I've been concerned about for my whole lifetime. And so, it absolutely works, but I think it's just the combination of how you do it that makes the difference.
Yeah, because our blood labs, we're going to run about 100 markers for your clients or whoever comes to our retreat. That's step one, is we'll get your labs done before you come, so that because I'll be educating everybody on the labs, and we do what's called functional medicine. So, what the Mayo Clinic does, I love how you said, it's do you want your health to be just average? And if you look at averages, that means American average. Or do you want it to be ideal? And that means you're going to have to do things differently. And it's looking at labs differently so that we can start carving out new habits, new treatment protocols. And this is what a lot of people think. They think they're getting longevity medicine, and really all they're getting is advanced diagnostics without any framework of how to help move the body in a better direction. So when you come to the event, we'll have your blood labs ran before. You'll meet with my team. I have a phenomenal team. 10 out of 10. Really great experience. We say EastWest is more of a hospitality company that focuses on healthcare. So we want to make sure everybody feels that when they come in. So they're going to get a 5-star experience. But then when you come in, this is where we go through labs, but you also get the chance to explore some of the novel therapies that exist, like peptides. And Brittany, what was your thoughts when we did the peptide party at the first event that we did? Because you'd never seen it, and all of a sudden you said, "What does this dude? He's pulling out all these peptides." And what was your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, when we first kicked it off, I was like, "All right, buckle up. This is going to be an experience." But, the thing that honestly I found so fascinating was the education behind it. And I think, Regan, you have a really unique skill in being able to take complex, call it concepts, and make it so darn easy to understand, to where I was looking around the room, paying more attention to the amazing people that we were able to invite and have in that space, and seeing things click for them and light bulbs go off. And as you're talking about the different peptides and maybe some of the things or the symptoms that they can overcome, having people just nod their heads going, wait a second, he's talking to me right now. So I think just your ability to simplify things is second to none. And I think that's the education component, that once people fully understand what this world of functional medicine, what this world of peptides and stem cells and all these crazy things that you're starting to hear more about in the commonplace, when they actually understand quality, they understand sourcing, and they understand what it can do for them, it's like a game changer. You just see light bulbs go off, which was really cool.
Yeah. And medical things can be scary because it's your health and your well-being. And I think how you educate people gives them comfort and the willingness to, want to take another step forward. Whereas, people, I'm not even going to want to learn anything just because I don't know what the heck I'm doing and it's scary. And so I would agree with Brittany. You have a great skill in making people understand complex things.
I appreciate that. And I think, and when people can experience peptides, we, like you said, Brittany, we source them only from the most reputable compounding pharmacies. And once people experience it, they literally start feeling better pretty instantly. So people automatically, I say at these retreats, my goal is to do more for people's health in one day than most people do in a year or even their lifetime. And so that's our promise. So by the end, say, okay, have you done more for your health today than you have done in the last year? Everybody's like, yeah, absolutely. And so we do the peptide party. There's a lot of thinking tools, because just like you have to get people thinking about where they want their future to go as far as experiences, legacy, financial security, all those things, I want them to think about what would be different in your life if you didn't have the pain? What would be different if you didn't have the digestive issues? What would be different if you're 20, 30 pounds lighter? What would be different if you had the cognitive capabilities that you enjoyed when you were younger? Because all those things are obtainable, but people don't think they are. Same thing with wealth. People just think they're stuck and there's no way out of this. I'm going to be in debt the rest of my life, or I'll never have that vacation I want. But it's really just like chiseling away the old structures of thinking. And so we have a really unique way using our Health Accelerator checklist or 10-year roadmap. We have the 10 unique health differentiators that we take patients through in these retreats. And then we have treatments. So everybody gets a vitamin IV who wants it. Everybody gets a carotid artery scan who wants it. We'll show them the age of their carotid arteries. If they want to do VO2 max testing, we'll put them on the treadmill. So wear comfortable clothes when you come to these events.
Yes.
And then we have a stem cell party. And Bryan actually named it. He's like, this is more like a stem cell party. And Bryan, what's been your experience with learning about stem cells and trying them out?
Yeah, well, I first of all, it's a fascinating topic, and insulin is a peptide, and I didn't know that, and it's just been fun to learn that there are so many ways to improve your health other than taking prescription drugs or having a surgery. And literally 99% of the people, that's probably all they've ever been exposed to. And, Brittany's maybe the greatest recent example of the benefits of stem cells. She just completed a half marathon, and she had bad knees until Regan got a hold of her, and let her tell the story.
Yeah, go back. I think my first and only outside of this one that I just did, only other half marathon. I was like 23, I think, when I ran it. And I was on crutches for a week after. Long story, I've had knee problems for a long, long time. And my inflammation was so bad after that run that I was on crutches for literally 7 days. So I've been working with Regan and his team for just over a year now, I think it's been, and had some stem cells done in my knees last summer. And it was one of those things where I was like, my doctor's telling me that my next step is surgery. So what the heck do I have to lose in trying this? Best case scenario, they're going to get better. Worst case scenario, I'm going to do exactly what I've been planning on doing anyway. And fortunately for me, it was best case scenario. So I just ran a half marathon. It was just this last weekend. And I actually beat my time from my 20s. And I felt so strong, and I have no crutches. And I was back to exercising within a couple days, and my knees feel great. So I could do cartwheels and sing over the moon over that, because it's life-changing. It's been life-changing.
Yeah. And that's the phenomenal thing is, if you wouldn't have been at the retreat and learned about it, you probably wouldn't have been as open-minded to it. I'm just imagining, because we all need education, because it's such a new thing. And it's like, wait, you're using these umbilical cord stem cells, and are they safe? And what's the risks? And I don't know. My doctor's never talked to me about it. But once you see it in the environment, and then you meet Dr. Steinley and you meet Tasha, you meet our whole team, then you start saying like, okay, these guys are experts. We've been doing it 14 years. 25,000 treatments of stem cells. We have very good success rate, but that's really the access that your clients will get, because think of the difference. If you're 65, you fall, you break the head of your femur, your all-cause mortality goes up by 50%. So your risk of death is so high, and we just want to remove that. And so one of the things we have is a worksheet called your pain-free future. So we have a very strict policy. We don't want anyone to have pain who works with us. So that's partially what the stem cell party can do. We talk about, treating the brain for people who want to have better cognitive clarity and protect their brain, ideally against dementia, Alzheimer's. And then there's great things from a cardiovascular function that our fitness team does, our nutrition team does, as far as getting your macros and your nutrition dialed in. So the retreat is a really great eye opener for people to come in and experience that other piece of the dream architecture. Is if you're going to create big dreams for yourself, you're going to want some health to go along with that. And so we try to provide that in that day-long event. And it's really fun. We provide great food. Everything's taken care of for you guys. So, yeah, I love it. And I appreciate all the people that you guys have brought.
Yeah.
I want to say,
go ahead, Brittany.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, the other cool thing too, and this is like so simple, but one thing that I've really enjoyed about your retreats, Regan, is having access to all your team members. So for example, I think about like my Russian deadlifts, and I was doing those for forever. And I met with one of your physical trainers there, and he was like, "Oh, you have a slight adjustment you need to make." And all of a sudden I was like, okay, I have no lower back pain doing that. I was literally like probably an inch off of how I should have been doing it. And just talking to him for a few minutes, it's like little things like that you're incorporating in your day to day that you don't think about until you get in an environment where you actually have the space to ask the questions and have people live there that actually care and are like, yes, let's go through this. So it's just little things like that people don't think about, but that really matter, and it affects your everyday living.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, the one thing that I would say the experience that you get is you make education fun, and something positive will have happened to you by being there, where your health will be better in some or multiple ways, having just experienced it. It's, as Brittany said, it can be literally life-changing.
Yeah. Well, it's a unique ability we have as a team, and our trainers they all have their master's degrees in exercise physiology, and they're just phenomenal. So we just had a retreat last week, and it was filled up. We had 25 people there, and it was phenomenal because so many people we work with virtually, and then when they come in and they meet us all in person, they're just like, oh, this is a really cool experience. Like, they love it. We even had teenagers there, and they had a blast. So yeah, I mean, this is something that I look forward to the future and creating more of these these retreats with your dream architecture clients. And so I really appreciate the time that we've had to collaborate over the last couple of years, and I look forward to many more years to come. But just to wrap up the show today, Bryan, Brittany, if you guys had, we'll start with you, Bryan, but if you had kind of one piece of advice for a financial advisor who's looking to take his firm to the next level, what advice would you give him?
Well, I think it's important to think differently than your average financial advisor. As Brittany alluded to, our world is changing, and if you don't take a lead or do something differently, you're going to be left behind, and your clients are going to be looking for somebody that's doing that. So think a little differently than you do today, and not that these are the only 5 pillars. There might be others, but it's been amazing just introducing people to these concepts on how impactful and the compliments we've gotten from clients about thinking a little bit out of the box.
Man, love it. Think differently. I mean, that's huge. And that's what you've done and you continually do, which is so impressive. Brittany, if you had some advice to give somebody who, let's say a single mom or somebody who is struggling to, get her feet back on the ground and get herself financially secure, or a single dad, or, someone out there who's just kind of struggling financially, what are some steps that they could take right out of the gates to start enjoying better financial freedom?
Yeah. This is such an interesting question, because I think there's a saying out there that's, don't take advice from somebody that you wouldn't want to switch places with. And I think that really everything boils down to putting yourself around people that cause you, to Bryan's point, to maybe think a little bit different, but to also stretch yourself. So find, individuals that you can, I don't know if they're a mentor. I don't know if there's somebody that you look up to. It's amazing that if you just reach out to somebody, like if you're in a place of struggle and you're in a place of hardship and you need advice or you need direction or guidance, just ask, because there are so many people out there that are willing to help and that truly want to help you and want to lift you up. Don't ever feel like you have to be isolated or like, guilty as charged in my past life and still sometimes in my current, feeling like you have to go head down and just figure it all out by yourself, because you don't. There are people out there that want to help you. So reach out. Don't be afraid to ask. And there's no dumb question. There's zero dumb questions. There's only great opportunity.
Man, great advice, and really appreciate you guys. What's the best website, or what's the best way for people to reach out to you? And we'll put links in the show notes as well, but
Yeah. So first of all, connect with either one of us on LinkedIn. Both of us are active there, and we'll answer any questions that you have. Brittany Anderson and Bryan Sweet. So it's pretty darn easy. You can also visit dreamarchitect.com to get a little bit more of a sense on some of the events and just the different structure there, or sweetfinancial.com, which is where you can learn all about the trademarked process that is the Dream Architect.
Love it. Awesome. Well, this has been phenomenal. Thanks, Bryan. Really appreciate you and your friendship, as do I, Brittany. You guys are just incredible humans. So really appreciate you being on the show. And for those of you who love the show, make sure you share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and leave us a 5-star review if you feel up for it. Thanks so much. And thanks again, Bryan and Brittany.
Thanks, Regan. Been a pleasure.